Welcome back to the channel where we never stop playing with cars. And now it's hit 40 degrees outside here in Minnesota. And that can only mean one thing: race season is around the corner. So everybody's gonna be seeing the sunshine and the warmer weather, if you will. And so, oh no, I got all this stuff to do. Here I am doing the same thing. So I do have a list of things to do on the FRS. We've done the parachute so far, we did the brake pad upgrade, but I had a couple other things on the agenda as far as getting this thing ready to hit the track for the first time this year. Thought we'd bring you along. For those of you new to the channel, this is the 2013 Scion FRS that I got from Full Blown Motorsports. This was their original R&D car for when they made the turbo kits and everything else they ever made for this car. And I drove it for them back in 2014, where we set the, at one time, FA20 record of 10:34. So since all the parts have been kind of made for this car a 3 years ago, I said, I still want that car because it still has my name on the door. And they said, what are you going to do with it? And I said, well, I'm going to keep racing it, but I want to change that boxer engine to that. This is a mostly stock refreshed 2JZ. For those of you in Canada, it's a 2JZA. And it's got some BC cams in it, the 264s with a BorgWarner 66mm turbo. Got it out for the first time last year and drove it out on the streets and kind of got used to it a little bit. One of my favorite parts of getting the car out on the streets last year was taking friends like Mr. Bill for a ride.
That is the scariest effing car I've ever been in.
And leads us to this year, which is when we'll be taking it back to the track, so it will run much faster than 1034. Engine's tuned to 762 horsepower using the Fueltech FT600. Got some things torn apart in here, doing some electronic add-ons. And, ooh. So while the shop waits for some parts to come in for some electronic stuff I'll show you here in a minute, the car is back home and there's some things we need to address. One of them being this CX Racing coolant pipe, which has made contact with the studs from the water pump. It was just a matter of twisting that a different way and keeping it a little bit further away from there, but you may be able to see that it did make contact with that pipe, and so that's one of the things that I'm going to take out and get that fixed up, because I don't want to find out how much material it took off of that water pipe, say at like $150 at the track. So that's one of the things I'm going to do. I'm going to get the car up in the air and get the coolant all drained out of it. It's mostly water, but so we can get that pipe off. One of the other things on the agenda was to get these wheels taken care of. These are the Bogart Racing custom wheels that were made for this car. I have two sets. This was originally the set with my ET Streets on it, and the car didn't seem that low. I mean, it looked really cool, but what ended up happening was the lower control arm in the back ended up digging into this barrel a little bit, and putting new street tires on it after I blew through the first ones in 3 weeks. One of these wheels is out of round. The barrel is not correct. So I've taken the centers out of those, and I'm gonna send these out to Bogart and get 2 new barrels put onto these wheels. I do have another set that currently has the street tires on it, but I will need this set for the new slicks that are on their way. These are the slicks from the 2014 Mission when it had the FA20, and these are a 26 by 8.5, 15-inch wheel, and I just don't think they're going to be big enough for what we're doing now, and I wasn't going to try it out for the first time this year. So I did end up ordering some new Mickey Thompsons. Those are going to be 28 by 9, and should give us a little bit more meat back here. So out with these guys. If you're looking for a set of those, holler. Behind the 2J, we have the CD009 transmission from the Nissan 350Z. That's all in there with full-blown motorsports motor mounts and transmission conversion. Also has their shifter, the QA1 carbon fiber drive shaft made to the full-blown motorsports spec. We have G-force axles going back here to the 8.8 rear end, another thing the shop offers as far as a conversion. And then this is one of the newer parts. This is a sensor. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you what that's for, but if you know anything about anything, you probably figured that one out. Oh, I remember now. That's the sensor that tells the fuel tech how fast I'm going. So it's just so I know how fast I'm going. Wink, wink. And then we have the double adjustable QA1 shocks, also made to the full-blown motorsports spec, which is another thing I've got to address back here after we get that coolant drained. So here's our radiator, and here is the plug that I need to pull and not spray myself in the face with coolant. Yeah, right, Steve. You know that's gonna happen. I'll give this a shot. I'm gonna make a good decision and save that hat, because I kind of know how this is probably gonna go. Well, maybe you can just slow drain it. That's no fun. You're all hoping that I throw this all over myself. I know. Me too. Maybe I'll do the old pull it and hand shield. Uh-oh, we got a leaker over here. Yeah, we're just going hand shield. Oh, yep. Hand shield. Oh, that's not working. Switch it to hose. The things I do to entertain you. Now that we've got all the coolant out, you can see the pipe that we're going to remove and how close it is to the water pump with the studs sticking out. Now this is just the CX Racing, a little cheap 2JZ to FRS coolant setup. And I thought about just buying another one so I don't have to take this pipe to the shop and have them weld it and all that crap. But they only sell it as a whole kit, so that'd be another $130. And it's not that we don't have the ability to fix it, it's just I didn't really want to bother the shop with it, but for that much, we'll bother the shop with it. Once I get this loosened here, you'll be able to see it was just a matter, you know, because you can swivel this. So now that's loose. You can see I could have just swiveled it out further before I clamped down on those pipes, but oh, next time, oh, next time. Oh, I remember I had to take that one off too. Why wouldn't it be a different size? And there she comes. And now you can see where that water pumps, the studs here have made contact with this, that is definitely a big no bueno on that. One of the other things I've got to do is address the rear suspension on the car. I did recently put some upgraded brake pads on the front and rear, just give me a little bit more stopping power before pulling that parachute. But on these shocks, they are sitting good at ride height with the correct length and everything, but I keep noticing that every time I look, this O-ring or travel indicator is all the way at the top of the shock. If I can get the thing to start coming down here. So there you can see the O-ring. So this O-ring is a travel indicator. You can put it down like this, then go drive the car. And if this is all the way at the top of the shock rod, then you know your shock is going to fully compressed, which is not where you want it to be, because you can start banging that shock apart. This is a setup that Full Blown Motorsports set up for me, made by QA1, double adjustables, all that good stuff. So I've got to address why that's going to full compression, even though the shock length at ride height is good. There is this bump stop, if you will. It's there to prevent the shock from going to full bottomed out. That's another 1/2 inch of travel that I'm missing. So I'm going to pull these shocks out, pull this out, and then I will likely be raising the ride height a little bit and keeping an eye on the travel indicator, because I'm not sure of the complete strategy on what I'm going to need this thing to do at the track, but I do want all the travel available to me. That's why I'm going to pull that out, but I've got to pull the whole shock assembly out to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from the black base of this shock up to the top edge of this spring seat collar, so that next time I have to put these back in and reset it, I don't have to guess so much about where the ride height was, where I'm trying to get to, that whole thing. Sometimes you could just count threads, and that's fine too. This way will be better. No, it won't. Let's call it 502, 5.02 inches. I'm gonna write that right there on the exhaust. Then I'm gonna draw 2 collars, and then the base, and then, yeah, 5.2. I'll measure this side now too, just so I don't have to do it later. They're not gonna be the same side to side, rarely ever, because the car weighs different amounts. So to keep it at a ride height, the same ride height, sometimes you need a little bit different amount of adjustment. This one is 4.88. 4.88. Oh, that's about 8. Well, yeah, okay. Sure, that's 8. Then we start taking them apart. Well, not taking them apart, but taking some of the tension off of the spring. I don't keep the locking collars all that tight, just because they don't need to be. Shazam! Adjusting coilovers is always going to be easier if you've got anti-seize on the threads, or in this case, PB blaster. There's not a whole lot of tension on it, just as long as they're not dry. Dry is, as you'd probably expect, is dry. This is another reason why I like this little spanner wrench that doesn't have the traditional handle. It's got like a 3/8 drive ratchet deal. It's got one notch on the end, so you can just kind of side hook that collar. With the handled spanner wrenches, you sometimes can only get like a little bit of a turn, because then that handle's in the way of something. So I tend not to use those. I use these ones. You could maybe call that a top tip. Today's top tip brought to you by nobody, because we don't have any sponsors here. We're just screwing around in the garage. If somebody made snap ring pliers with like titanium ends there, I would buy them. Because I have like 5 sets of snap ring pliers and they're all cracked off. Snap rings are not fun. There we go. And we're just going to pull our spring off. We got our travel indicator and 1/2 inch of shock travel now available. Travel indicator going back on. Simply put this all back together and put it back in the car. That was a lot of work to get a 1/2 inch of travel, but that's what needed to happen. One of the features that I really like about these double adjustable shocks is that I have control over the compression and the rebound. And so with 18 settings from full soft to full firm, what I can do is as the car sits like this and I take off from the line, car wants to squat down in the back, I can actually control with the compression how quickly or how much resistance that gives. So I can allow it to dip down real hard, or I can dip down like not at all because I've got it cranked up so high. But also, once the car does weight transfer a little bit, maybe it dips down a little bit, then I have rebound control, which is the extension of the shock. So think about it, if the car, I can control how much and how far it dips down, but I can also control keeping it there in its attitude so that it's not bouncing back up real quick. Just by cranking the rebound, I could have it dip a little bit and just basically stick there. So just having, and I'm not sure what my strategy is going to be just yet. I'm going to have to get the car out and see what it does, how it reacts, that type of thing. But it's nice to have that control over both directions and kind of control the attitude of the car and hopefully run good times. We hope. While we have these coilovers out, there's one more thing I want to check, and it's something that I added to the car just after we got it going last year, and that is these adjustable control arms. Now you can see there's an adjustment here, so you can adjust this hub with your camber. You can adjust the camber. The reason I got these is because the IRS cars, as you lower them, the top of the tire will tilt in. With the slicks and or the street tires, I want as much of that tire flat and contact patch with the road or the track. So that's why I got these. Now these are commonly used by the hot boy camber gang. They're used to adjust in so that the tires are crooked. I don't know why they do it. I don't talk to them. But I use these because they're said to be able to correct the negative camber and actually put my wheel and tire flat or straight up and down. I'm not sure if this has enough thread engagement into that arm and into this center adjustment sleeve to be safe. I'll admit I didn't get this car aligned after I put these on. I just visually did it. So I may need even more adjustment, and I'm thinking now is a good time without the shocks and springs in there to pull this ball joint, measure it first to see where I'm at, and then measure how much do I actually have in there before I'm not comfortable with it. So I'm gonna do that and double check it. Now, I'm not one to be technical with you, but when it comes to the linkage adjustment, I think I've got something to show you. Okay, we've got these adjuster linkages and the ball joint taken out. I've got them all measured. This one here measures a diameter of 5/8 and this one is 7/8. Now the general rule is that whatever diameter your adjustment linkage is, you want 1.5 times the amount of the thread. So if this is a 7/8, 1.5 times 7/8 is 1 5/16 or 1.312. You want that's the target amount of thread engagement you want of this into that arm to be safe. Now that's just a general rule, 1.5. This one is a 5/8 diameter stud. 1.5 is 15/16. We're looking for a target thread engagement of 9.37. So I took the jam nuts off and we had 0.87 of threads showing on this one. Simple math of the length of the threads minus what was showing gives me 0.88. Our target is 1.32 or 1.312. So we're a little short there of the 1.5 times the diameter target. However, you see 0.88 is 0.88. It's still quite a bit of that thread that's engaged into that arm. So I think it's safe there, but just a little math equation on linkage adjustment and how much you want this one into the arm and this one into the adjuster. The best way to do any linkage adjuster is to fully bottom this one out into the arm and fully bottom this one out into the adjustment. Then hold the end piece here, the arm isn't going to rotate, and adjust this one. Now you're evenly adjusting this one out of the arm and this one out of the linkage. Just a little math equation there, I didn't want to lose you. I've got it all put back together and I put the same distance that we measured when we took it apart, because we now know what the actual lengths of each piece are, so we know how much engagement we have. I was just concerned that if I needed to do a little bit more positive camber, that these threads were going to start running out. But now I know where we're sitting and this is a good thing. So I left the jam nuts loose. I'm going to mimic ride height with the pull jack, and then I'm going to try to set that hub as straight up and down, and this time I'm going to actually align the car, so that will be good. Well, it's early Saturday morning and normally I'd be in the garage playing with cars, but buddy said, here's my Duramax, I need a boat picked up down the street. And I said, okay, where is it? It's in Kentucky. Okay, I'll be right back. I don't know anything about boats or where I'm going, but I guess this one's green, so looking for a green boat. Go ahead with your bad self, Illinois.
Oh, I've been traveling on this road too long, just trying to find my way back home.
Boom, forgot to film it. Tired. Kentucky boat, green. Done. Well, now that we got the boat picked up, it's time to go back into the garage, where you come home and you find trash on the floor. Thanks, son. Now I know exactly how Al Bundy felt. And tonight we're gonna be pulling off this front bumper because it had a tendency to look like that. And I'm told that it looked like that on both sides. because I didn't have these headlight support deals, which somehow helps that bumper stay on. So I'm gonna pull that front bumper off, hopefully put those plastic dealios on and make this better. Oh, lights. Here's the handiwork I've previously done with this crash bar to help support the intercooler. And you can get a good look at that. So the plastic supports go in here somewhere, and hopefully that will make everything sit better. I got that plastic deal on, and it's got just a couple little clips in here. And I think the one that we were missing, hitting, was this guy. So now that will grab that, I think that bumper will look like it's supposed to fit this car. It's gonna be nice. Well, that's with no fasteners in it, so we're looking better. Yeah, I think that'll work. For my next mission, we gotta deal with this parachute cable. It is coming out of the bumper at an angle this way from the previous hole that it was mounted in, except for this gas tank was not in here. So you can see it's coming in there and coming out of the bumper there, which puts quite a strain on it to make it come up through here. So I don't know if I'll have to redo, put a hole. You know what? It looks like, see it coming out here, there, trying to get to here and not have as much tension on it. I think I might have to go this way and possibly put a new hole in the bumper, which is the least of my worries. I can cover that with like a little circular black vinyl or something like that. I'd rather have the parachute work if needed than to be fancy with only one hole in the bumper. So let's see how we're gonna get that done. Okay, that's seeming much better coming in straight here, and we'll have to secure it to there, wrap around to here. Now the goal with the parachute cable, and there's quite a bit of it in this car, is to have it running so that there's not a lot of kinks or tight turns. We're coming from the handle there, coming around here, kind of swirls around in the headliner there, and then back to going down the side there. So we'll just have to maybe clean up this kink here. We've got lots of extra cord, so I'll have to reroute that, stick it in there, cut her off, good to go. Okay, we've got Howdy Doody in the car here with his new hat, and the parachute is now hooked up. What I did was I pulled the lever out, which pushes this cable in, and then kind of figured out where it needed to be, cut it off clean. Push the handle back in, cable comes out. It actually came out to about here, but I cut that off because this is about all we'll need. And now Howdy Doody is gonna pull it and see if it activates and how smoothly. Nice! How'd it feel?
Good.
Well, that was a little bit about fixing a couple things on Baby Girl, the 2JZ FRS that we're about to take racing. There's probably a couple more things. We'll take her back to the dyno, put her on the dyno, get some more electronic stuff dialed in. Till then, I'll wait for this guy to stop making a mess in my garage. Leaking oil all over the place with his turbo Miata. But we appreciate you watching. If you have any comments, comment in the comments. We're doing the CRX over there, or he's doing the Miata, the FRS. WECARS247 is what we do. If you like this video, hit like, subscribe. We will be out here tomorrow. We're going to be out here tomorrow, won't we?